Welcome to Tuesday Cafe. I'm Sean Canan, and we're broadcasting live on April 15th from the studios of WMNF in Tampa. There's a lot of activism happening in the Tampa Bay area, and we're going to get a sampling during this hour. We'll hear from three people talking about what they're organizing. We're going to hear from a faith-based group in Manatee County that's working on criminal justice reform, affordable housing, and youth mental health. Plus, we'll hear about a new community resource in Hillsborough called the Tampa Free Every Center. And we'll hear what you can expect at this Friday's rally on the National Day of Action for Higher Education. Our first guest is Corey Weckerly, a lead community organizer for the faith-based coalition known as STREAM. That's Stronger Together, Reaching Equality Across Manatee. And again, this is WMNF Tampa, and I want to welcome Corey Weckerly to our studios. Welcome, Corey.
Thank you so much, Sean. I appreciate you for letting me come and speak about the work that we're doing.
Yeah, I'm really happy you could join us by Zoom. And so tell us, some of our listeners may have heard you on Surly Voices a few weeks ago, but introduce your group. Tell us, what is STREAM?
Yeah, absolutely. So STREAM, it stands for Stronger Together, Reaching Equality Across Manatee, like you said. We're a faith-based coalition, so we're essentially a amalgamation of congregations all across Manatee County that are focused on addressing the root causes of systemic issues and poverty in Manatee County. So we're really just focused on advocating for justice for all people that live here and are kind of rooted our organizing in the faith-based aspect of things in regards to like the story of Nehemiah and Amos and Matthew, just a couple of different biblical examples that we have to kind of structure us.
So you are focusing on three main issues right now. We'll talk about these three. Criminal justice reform by way of access to pre-arrest diversion programs, affordable housing, and youth mental health. So as you mentioned, that every year in Manatee County, STREAM, like some other faith-based coalitions in some of these other counties, invite local elected officials. They hold what are called Nehemiah actions. So let's take each focus that we just talked about and find out what you were asking the elected officials for in March and what their responses were. One thing that you asked for is to incentivize at least 1,000 affordable houses at 80% of the area median income or below each fiscal year. So how did you phrase that question, and what was your response from commissioners?
Yeah, absolutely. Affordable housing has been kind of one of the forefront issues. It's one of the first things that STREAM kind of took onto their mantle. And yeah, before STREAM started advocating in 2020, 2021, because of COVID, the prior 8 years before that, there had been roughly 900 total units of affordable housing created, and all of those were structured at 120% of the area median income, which in Manatee County, our median income is about $96,000, so it's not necessarily affordable. So STREAM started to advocate after going through our listening process and hearing dozens and dozens of stories about people who were struggling, finding housing, or who had lost housing, or were about to lose housing, just, everything along those lines. So we went through our research to action process, met with local leaders, people who have expertise in the field and could give us more of kind of the data behind the problem. And we found out that our area median income is just way too high, and focusing the affordable housing at a rate of 120% is just not feasible for most people here. So we asked our county commission, we actually phrased it exactly like that. We asked our county commission to incentivize the development of affordable housing at least 80% or below at 1,000 units or more per fiscal year. And we actually got a resounding yes. We were very happy to have a supportive commission. Commissioner George Cruz actually joined us this year. He joined us last year as well for the Nehemiah action to respond to the community. And they've been doing a lot of really good work in regards to affordable housing. Because of the advocacy that STREAM has done, they actually the county commissioners of Manatee County restructured what's called the Livable Manatee Ordinance, which now means that any developers who want to get some kind of incentivization regarding, say, like density bonuses, or they want fee concessions or anything like that, they now have to be building at least, I think it's like a 30% of the units have to be built at 80% or below of the area median income. So it was a very successful campaign, and we're very happy with the results that we got from from it.
So you got a commissioner to say yes, and how does that translate into upcoming things that will come before the county commission? Do you think that they're going to follow through with this?
Yep, absolutely. We definitely think that they're going to be following through, especially Commissioner George Cruz. We've met with him numerous times, and he's been very supportive of not only Stream and the work that we're doing, but also just looking into affordable housing and really how he can help people in the community here. So they've been talking about things like possibly looking into things like tiered incentivization for affordable housing. So we can try to push affordable housing as far down as 30% of the area median income by giving people more bonuses and like density bonuses and fee concessions and things like that for building the lowest possible threshold for affordability that they can. And then you kind of lose some of those bonuses the higher that you go up. So they're talking about, a couple of different things that, of course, we've heard that developers aren't, or county commissioners aren't developers, so they themselves cannot, build units or give us those affordable units, but they do have, through their leadership and the policies that they create, they do have the ability to incentivize developers as much as they can to make sure that affordability is really a priority for them.
And moving away from the Manatee County Commission for a moment and going to the school district, you want to prioritize youth mental health in the Manatee County School District. So how are you trying to go about doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been working on youth mental health. We're going into our second year of this campaign. So we've done a lot of research and talked to a lot of people regarding the specific issues in Manatee County. We found that in Manatee County, it's just above or just below 25%. It's like 24% of students aged 11 through 17 have self-reported feeling depression or hopelessness so bad that they have stopped doing things that they normally would. 1 in 10 of them in that same age group have reported self-harming in the past year to cope. About 10% of students are afraid to go to school because they're afraid of their commute, either on the way or coming back from school. We've heard from mental health counselors and psychologists and school social workers that there's a incredible increase of anxiety amongst students, which is causing a lot of kind of behavioral issues and outbursts and stuff like that, really just all over the nation, but specifically here in Manatee County, they just really didn't have the resources, not for a want of wanting to make things better, but there just wasn't the resources to really help the students. So we found out that the school district in Manatee County is actually operating under the long-term strategic plan of the former superintendent. That is going to be ending in 2026, but in 2025, the fall of this year, the new superintendent, Dr. Jason Wysong, is going to, and his staff are going to be creating a new long-term strategic plan. So we have asked them to partner with us in the creation of that plan. And to prioritize and allocate additional resources to youth mental health specifically to kind of shore up some of these issues. Some of the things that we'd like to see addressed are there's incredibly high student to staff ratios in Manatee County when it comes to mental health support staff and students. The recommended ratios are about 1 to 250, one professional to about 250 students. In Manatee County, we've seen it to be about 1 in 750. For school social workers, it's about 1 in 1,500 students. And for school psychologists, it's about 1 in 2,500 students. So we would like to see that addressed. We would like to see them create better metrics and measurables for the community partners that they're organizing with when they're contracting out for mental health support staff, just setting more guidelines for how those organizations are interacting with students. So just kind of quality of life, things like that, just increasing staffing and increasing resources so that they're able to really support the students in the way that they need to be supported, because we know that the school district and the school system in general, their main focus is to educate children, but there's been tons and tons and tons of studies, and we all know that if children are not supported, if they're not stable in their mental health, their ability to learn when they get to school is severely diminished. So we think it's kind of a full circle thing that if we can help people, if we can help children just be more stable and more comfortable in where they are mentally, then the academic side of things will definitely increase as well.
And when you put those proposals, those ideas to the representative for the school board's superintendent, what was the response?
They also gave us a resounding yes. So this was something that last year we did ask for them to reallocate a mental health assistance allocation plan that they get for like grant money and things like that. And it was a little bit of a back and forth that we had last year. We did not get such a positive response, but they actually did end up, while they didn't give us a yes last year specifically, they did end up basically doing the things that we asked for throughout the remainder of the year. But this year, we did a little bit more, I would say collaborating, just more meeting with like the superintendent, meeting with his representatives, meeting with the school board members, just to have longer in-depth conversations before we got to the Nehemiah action, so that we had already kind of hashed out the wording. We had hashed out the feasibility of the things that we were asking for. And when we got to the Nehemiah action, they gave us a resounding yes. And they actually put forth a call to the community to, ask people to get involved with the planning. And so it was a really exciting night.
I want to remind people that we're speaking with Corey Weckerly, a lead community organizer for the faith-based coalition known as STREAM, Stronger Together, Reaching Equality Across Manatee. This is Tuesday Cafe. I'm Sean Canan, and we're speaking with Corey about their 3 or 4 priorities that they have in Manatee County about getting education and pre-arrest diversion programs, which we haven't spoken about yet. So let me ask you about that right now. Is when you were talking to these school board leaders or the county commissioners, what was their response when you asked them about pre-arrest diversion programs for youth?
So in regards to for pre-arrest diversion, we're actually working more with local law enforcement, so trying to work directly with the police chiefs of Bradenton and Palmetto, working with the sheriff of Manatee County and those kind of entities. We've also been working with the State Attorney Ed Brodsky. So we were able to work with State Attorney Ed Brodsky in getting a pre-arrest diversion program created for Manatee County. It's actually Circuit 12, so Manatee County and Sarasota. It's an amazing program. It's very, very comprehensive in regards to pre-arrest diversion programs that are in Florida. I do believe that ours is one of the most comprehensive that are around. It is for first-time nonviolent offenses, misdemeanors, so, petty thefts and possession of marijuana, just, victimless offenses, things like that. We are asking for the sheriff and local law enforcement to allow people the opportunity to use a pre-arrest diversion program instead of arresting them, give them a civil citation, allow them to go through the program where they have to answer questionnaires about the situation, how they got there. They have to go through like counseling services and wraparound services to get help if they have, mental health issues and things like that with the state attorney's office. They also have to do community service and pay restitution and reparations. So it's not that we're asking for, no accountability or for, people to just be let go for crimes. It's just that all of the studies have shown that when you give these low-level, low-risk offenders civil citations and the opportunity for pre-arrest diversion programs, they are far less likely to reoffend. There's actually studies that were done in Tallahassee over a 4-year period in Leon County that showed that there was an 80% reduction in recidivism rates just by giving people access to pre-arrest diversion, which is incredible for public safety. And it also is great for law enforcement. It makes their job a lot easier as well. Unfortunately, the response has not been as positive in regards to pre-arrest diversion in Manatee County. We've kind of been at odds with the sheriff and some of our local law enforcement. In the beginning of our advocacy, they did come out and support the program and say that they thought it was an amazing thing and they would like to offer it to anybody that was eligible. But in the past 2 years since I've been on with Stream, there have been only roughly, I would say maybe 35 people have actually been given pre-arrest diversion, where in Sarasota County, down in like the city of Northport and things like that, they've been given hundreds in the same time frame. So we believe there's a little bit of hesitancy from our sheriff to fully actually implement and utilize the program, and we've tried to work with the state attorney to see if he would be willing to go to the sheriff's department and give them a training and things like that to make them more comfortable with the program and understand how it fully works. But we haven't received a good response on that either. So we are still advocating for pre-arrest diversion, the implementation and the utilization of pre-arrest diversion program that's already been created by State Attorney Ed Brodsky. But now we are also we realized that with the local law enforcement leaders being hesitant to actually use the program, it's not something that we can force on them. So we are now Stream kind of remains committed to our original goal of ensuring that people aren't being unnecessarily arrested and aren't carrying those arrest records and criminal records, for life, which makes it so that they can't get jobs, they can't get housing, they lose community opportunities, they lose educational opportunities. So we're now looking into alternatives that we can try to work with the state attorney instead of our sheriffs, and looking into the reformation of pretrial intervention, which is essentially the same exact thing as pre-arrest diversion, except for people are already arrested by the time they get to the pretrial diversion. So what we would like to see now is if we could reform the pretrial diversion to make it when people successfully complete the program, they are able to have their arrest record expunged. We think that would almost meet the same kind of goal that we're trying to do in regards to reducing unnecessary arrests here, or at least the effect of unnecessary arrest records. So we're looking into alternatives and kind of trying to re-strategize to figure out how best to advocate for the community while we continue to advocate for APAD as well.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on Tuesday Cafe today, Corey. If people want to find out more about Stream, where can they go?
Yeah, absolutely. They can find us. We have a website. It's streammanatee.org. So that's streammanatee.org. We've got all of our information there, and there's also contact. Like if you would like to get involved, there's a contact site there that they can definitely reach out to us on. We are also on Facebook and Instagram at Stream Stronger Together, Reaching Equality Across Manatee. So definitely feel free to reach out via the website or via social media.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Corey. And Corey Weckerly is a lead community organizer for the faith-based coalition known as Stream Stronger Together, Reaching Equality Across Manatee. This is Tuesday Cafe, and we're coming to you from the studios of WMNF in Tampa. I'm Sean Canan, and we're going to turn now to another activist endeavor in the Tampa Bay area. This one is based in Hillsborough County. There's a new community resource available. It's in North Tampa. The address is 11213 North Nebraska Avenue, Suite 403. That's south of Fowler Avenue. And our next guest is going to talk about it. This month in North Tampa, the Tampa Free Every Center is opening. And here to tell us what that is activist Desiree Lynn. Welcome back to Tuesday Cafe, Desiree.
Hey, thanks for having me, Sean.
I'm glad you could come on and tell our listeners about this. We can't mention prices, so I'll just say at the outset that you don't charge for any of these services. It's a community resource. So tell us, what is the Tampa Free Every Center?
Sure. So the Tampa Every Center is an of, by, and for community-built space, healing space that's going to be free and by donation, providing services that are donated by providers on a rotating weekly schedule. So we're going to be offering accessible public health services. We have a free zine and library, book lending library. We have an herbal care center, first aid station, aromatherapy. It's a safe and affirming space for all community to access.
And you talked about a schedule. So if how can people find out what's available when?
Absolutely. So we're going to be announcing our weekly services that are provided through our Instagram. It's at Tampa Free Every Center. If you are a provider, we go by the idea that everyone has something to share, everyone has something to teach. So if you would like to share your services or your care with community, you can go to the link in our bio. It's bit.ly/Every Center, and you can sign up through a quick Google form, and then we will send you information on next steps so you can book some time in the space.
And so people can also maybe find out about when those services are available once your schedule is released. And, you briefly went over a couple of the things, but give us an idea of some of the types of services that you might have available.
Yeah, absolutely. So we created this space intentionally to be an access point for harm reduction supplies, for free hygiene and first aid kits, a place to come if you just need to be in an affirming space. It's trauma-informed care. We're rooted in anti-oppression. We're rooted in anti-carceralism, anti-racism, rooted in justice. We're pro-LGBTQ. And based on those things in this political atmosphere, we're a space of resistance just in the fact that we exist. So if we have right now Reiki services, blood pressure checks, rapid COVID and rapid flu testing. We have folks signing up for yoga classes to provide upskilling and skill shares and education and public health and resources that are available in our community now.
There might also be accesses for peer mental health support.
It will be, yeah. We're going to have RADMADS meetings here that are going to be peer mental health support. We're very much going to be resistance infrastructure. So at a time where mental health is criminalized, sex work is criminalized, in being a trans body is invisibilized, we're going to be an affirming space where you can access resources, support, through a peer paradigm and be able to access, resources that are available in our community. And we hope to build on that. So it's called the Every Center because it's going to be everything that the community can make it. It's an open door for everyone to come and offer and share and to learn and heal.
And I saw a couple of the other types of services that you're hoping to have, things like art therapy, gardening workshops. How will that work?
Yeah, so the space, we have a beautiful outdoor space as an accompanying piece to our indoor space. If people want to come and garden, if people want to come inside the space and teach herbal healing or herbal gardening for medicinal herbs, we welcome that. It's very much, this community is very creative, and we want to bring that creativity into the space. So we're located inside of the Freedom Center, where the Andrew Joseph Foundation and Mutual Aid Disaster Relief also have offices. There's a lot of different stations here where you can access resources to enliven those things, to teach and to bring alive any practice that you want to offer to everyone else in the community.
So why is having a space like this important in the Tampa Bay community?
Particularly community specific. We've endured several hurricanes in last hurricane season. We're a space where we have a large refugee community. We're a space where people are fighting to resist mass roundups of our cherished community members who are undocumented and of mixed status. We are a space that has been lively with resistance to rising fascism, to genocide, to all the things that are happening right now to weaponize truth and healthcare against the most vulnerable bodies among us. So we are going to be a space of resistance and sanctuary, a space of communal care. And we know why it's important in every community to have accessible public health services. And in our community, that's no different. But the impetus is because we're resisting all the ways that the most vulnerable among us are being criminalized and invisibilized before us.
Our guest is Desiree Lynn, who is telling us about the Tampa Free Every Center, which will be located at 11213 North Nebraska Avenue, Suite 403. That's south of Fowler Avenue. This is Tuesday Cafe. I'm Sean Canan. And if you want to ask a question, give us a call at 813-239-9663 if you're listening live on the 15th of April. You can also email dj@wmnf.org. You can text 813-433-0885. So, Desiree, I want to also ask you about May Day is in a couple of weeks. Are there any happenings that you know of that are going on for May Day?
I would, for us specifically, we have an open house on April 21st in advance of May Day. If folks would like to come and make signs for different events happening around the community, certainly a lot of different organizations are going to be having gatherings, marches, events, different upskilling events. We are going to be meeting in advance of that for an open house so people can start building the relationships that we need to enliven resistance activities to celebrate days like May Day and every day.
So the April 21st open house, is that at a particular time?
Yeah, it's going to be 7 to 8:30 p.m. People can come. We want people to meet each other and have this as a connecting point. You can learn about the Every Center. You can learn about the Andrew Joseph Foundation, Mutual Aid Disaster Relief. You can make signs to celebrate May Day. You can build first aid kits. You can make art. But it's going to be a wonderful opportunity to meet each other. And then in advance of that, on the 19th, this Saturday at 9 a.m., the Black Business Bus Tour is going to be coming through at 9 a.m. And we're going to be welcoming a large amount of community coming to learn about our space and the other services offered at the Freedom Center. People are welcome to join us for that too.
And people may have heard more about the Black Bus the Black Business Bus Tour on Down and Dirty on Friday. But do you want to tell people about that a little bit more?
Yeah, it's going to be a bus that's going to be stopping by and helping people to amplify Black-owned businesses in our community and Black businesses celebrating those spaces. And the Freedom Center is very, very much one of those spaces. The wonderful work of the Andrew Joseph Foundation, for example, protecting and defending the rights of all children happens right here in this space as well. So they're going to be stopping and learning about this Black-owned business and this Black-owned space that very much has a lot to offer the community. And we're welcoming a large amount of people for that. And we're going to be distributing wellness kits to everyone that joins us on that day.
Again, we're talking with Desiree Lynn, who's a local activist and is telling us about the Tampa Free Every Center. I've been giving out the address, Desiree, but give people a better idea of where that's located and how they can find it, especially maybe if someone is coming by Hartbus.
Absolutely. So we are a bit tucked away. We are behind a fireworks store. So if you use that as your beacon to find us, you can't miss it. You just go behind that space and then you'll see a big white box truck is usually in front. And we have signs for mutual aid banners and Power to the People signs right outside. So we're easily locatable. We have a little parking area right in front of the space. And and it'll be open 7 days a week for people. And we'll be notifying people at the beginning of each week as to what services are available and what times. And if you have any questions, you can reach us through our Gmail or through Instagram. It's tampafreeeverycenter@gmail.com or through @tampafreeeverycenter on Instagram.
And I noticed this. I'm not sure if this is affiliated with the Tampa Free Every Center, but I saw it by following a couple of links. Something called Lost in St. Pete 2025 next week. Is that something that you're prepared to tell us what that is, or is that just something that, do you know what that is?
Yeah, the music festival in St. Pete, a beautiful, beautiful endeavor. That's going to be a free event. While Tampa Free Every Center isn't going to be represented there, the people who've enlivened this space, including myself, will be there to speak about another initiative, Love Has No Borders, which is an immigrant and refugee solidarity movement in Tampa circa 2016. We do regular free every markets. We're going to be, or free markets for immigrant communities here in Tampa off of 15th Street and Fletcher. And we share groceries and food and clothing for the people. And we're going to be discussing that and sharing resources about that at that time. But it's not going to be necessarily specific to every center, but people that are involved in the space will be there.
And you've talked earlier in the interview about the importance of having a space for harm reduction and learning skills about that and a safe space. So, people, that might be a familiar topic to some people, but not to everyone. So fill us in if people aren't so sure what that is.
Absolutely. So harm reduction is the recognition that people, for instance, who use substances are going to be using substances, particularly in a space where capitalism and colonialism is antithetical to care. So people who use substances, rather than criminalizing them, we offer things like fentanyl test strips, pregnancy test kits, first aid supplies, Narcan, other supplies to keep people safe at a time where they're very vulnerable through the use of substances. So we'll be providing, we have all of those items for free here now that people can access without trading their dignity for accessing those resources. This space is in resistance to the criminalization of science or criminalization of people who use substances, the severing of reproductive health services and bodily autonomy. And we support all those things, and we want to be a touch point for all of that. And that's what we're aiming to do here.
Well, I want to thank you very much for coming on Tuesday Cafe today, Desiree. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Sean.
Desiree Lynn is with the Tampa Free Every Center, which you can find on Instagram or Tampa Free Every Center at gmail.com. Thanks so much for joining us. And we're going to be back in just a few minutes to talk about Friday's National Day of Action for Higher Education. This is Tuesday Cafe. I'm Sean Canan on WMNF Tampa. Thanks so much, Desiree.
Thank you.
This is WMNF Tampa. This is Tuesday Cafe. I'm Sean Canan, and we are listening to Tuesday Cafe. And I want to read you about some news before we get to our next guest. President Donald Trump has suggested he might temporarily exempt the auto industry from tariffs that he previously imposed on the auto sector. And Trump says that's in order to give car makers time to adjust their supply chains. The AP is reporting that meanwhile, the Trump administration has taken its next steps toward imposing more tariffs on key imports, launching investigations into imports of computer chips, chip-making equipment, and pharmaceuticals. Also, ranchers hope that Donald Trump's tariffs boost will cause the demand for cattle, but some of them fear market uncertainty. The prices might be raised enough to give ranchers and others the incentives they need to expand their herds for the first time in decades, but doing that would take at least 2 years, so it's not clear if Trump's tariffs on most of the world besides China are high enough to make that worth the investment for cattle ranchers. Also, a DOJ associate is made the acting head of foreign assistance at the State Department. That's according to a U.S. official. The move by the Trump administration expands the power of advisor Elon Musk's government-cutting team over the State Department. A senior U.S. official confirmed the new job for a man named Jeremy Lewin, who is an associate of the Department of Government Efficiency. He was earlier appointed to help finish dismantling the U.S. Agency for International Development, and the official was not authorized to speak publicly on a personnel matter and spoke on the condition of anonymity. Lewin's appointment gives Musk's team, which has worked with the Republican administration to help make deep cuts to government programs and services. It's one of its highest formal roles in the federal government. So that's some news about DOJ and so forth. Also, I want to tell you about some other news and internationally before we get to our next guest. Another U.S. aircraft carrier is in the Mideast waters, and it's ahead of a second round of Iran-U.S. nuclear talks. It is operating in Mideast water. The talks are between Iran and the United States over Tehran's rapidly advancing nuclear program. That's according to satellite photos that were analyzed today by the Associated Press. The operation of the USS Carl Vinson and its strike group in the Arabian Sea comes as American officials repeatedly have linked the U.S.'s months-long campaign against the Houthis as a means to pressure Iran in the negotiations. Questions remain over where the weekend talks between the countries will be held, though Iran's supreme leader described the first round of negotiations as going well. And earlier today, the CENTCOM, which is based in Tampa at MacDill Air Force Base, tweeted out information about their attacks on Houthis, their air attacks on Houthi positions. And also, here's another story that I'm going to read from the AP. It says an Israeli airstrike hit the northern gate of the Kuwaiti field hospital in the Gaza Strip today, killing a medic and wounding 9 other people. All of those people that were wounded and the medic were patients and medics, according to a spokesperson for the hospital in the Muwasi area, where hundreds of thousands have sought shelter in sprawling tent camps. Well, again, this is Tuesday Cafe, and we're going to go now to our third guest of the hour. Joining us right now is Vicky, Vicky Tong is a member of the Tampa Bay Students for a Democratic Society. And on Friday, they're going to be part of the National Day of Action for Higher Education. Thank you so much for coming on Tuesday Cafe, Vicky. Hey, hi, Vicky. Looks like your internet, it might be frozen. Maybe if you turn off your video, that would help us to get a better audio connection. All right, we're going to... Okay, so I want to ask you about SDS. What is it?
Awesome. So I am a member of Tampa Bay Students for a Democratic Society. So we are a student activist group who, we're a multi-issue group. So we rally around different campaigns. So one of our past campaigns was defending DEI on campus. And then we also had a Palestine campaign to demand disclosure and divestment of the University of South Florida. And currently we are doing a Defend Free Speech for Palestine campaign in response to USF enacting all this political repression against our group.
All right, well, let's go through those sequentially. First of all, the DEI, when you say that, what do you mean, and what kind of attacks are there on DEI in higher education?
So DEI, standing for diversity, equity, inclusion. We've seen numerous attacks under the DeSantis administration, with him demanding to schools to get rid of their DEI offices, which back in 2023, I believe, USF did comply to and completely got rid of their DEI office, which is against student interests. But now under the Trump administration, we are seeing even more attacks against DEI and attacks against DEI courses and things like that all across the U.S.
Why is that something that would impact students?
Well, I would say that DEI is, something that students really stand for. We support women's and gender studies. We support Africana studies, and all of those align with DEI and what DEI has to offer.
Another thing that this rally on Friday is to targeting is about ICE actions on campus. So why are you concerned about ICE actions on campus, and what do we know about how universities are interacting with ICE?
Yeah, so currently what we know about ICE and USFPD is something that the Oracle published very recently about USFPD's intentions to sign on to the 287G task force. It puts international students at risk. It makes students international students feel unsafe, when they are just trying to receive an education at the University of South Florida. Instead, they have to fear for their safety, fear of their visas being revoked and fear of being deported. So, that's why we are standing against ICE being on campus, because, all students deserve to have an education without the fear of for their safety, essentially.
What are the details of Friday's National Day of Action for Higher Education that your group's Tampa Bay Students for a Democratic Society are organizing a rally in Tampa? Tell us more about where it is and when.
So this event is taking place on 50th and Fowler. It's happening April 17th at 4:30 p.m. And it's part of a National Day of Action for Higher Education. So National SDS, which is the national group that we are a part of, joined a coalition of other groups. It includes Jewish Voices for Peace and, many other groups, all uniting on defending higher education.
And you said the 17th. Is it the 18th this Friday?
Yeah, it's on the 18th, but technically the National Day of Action is on the 17th.
I see. All right, thanks so much. But this Friday at 4:30 at the corner of 50th and Fowler, that's kind of across Fowler Avenue from one of the main entrances of the University of South Florida. What can people expect to see there?
So we'll have numerous speeches, all discussing our demands that are listed on our flyer. So, speeches talking about Trump's attacks on higher education, speeches talking about DEI, and also speeches talking about demanding free speech for Palestine.
And when you say free speech for Palestine, that's kind of a direct reference to what happened at the USF campus last year when there were students kind of occupying a public space on campus. Describe to people what happened.
So on starting April 29th, Tampa Bay SDS took on the national call to, demand that universities disclose their investments and divest their investments from, weapons manufacturing companies that are directly involved in the genocide of Palestinians in Gaza. Tampa Bay SDS, along with numerous other students and community members, occupied MLK Plaza to, demand all of these things. And the University of South Florida continue to try and push us off, try and demand that we leave, despite the fact that it is a public space. So on day 1, 3 people were arrested, very swiftly and very suddenly and very violently. So Tampa Bay SDS and everybody came back April 30th, to continue to demand these things on a public space. South Florida decided to, involve 6 police jurisdictions and riot cops to violently shut down this protest that we had. And it also involved in 10 additional students and community members being arrested. South Florida still hasn't met with students to discuss these demands.
And some people were either expelled from school or lost their degree programs. So what do we know about how some of those cases turned out?
Yeah, so Victoria is one of the Tampa Bay SDS members that had their that was expelled and barred from obtaining her degree. She's still expelled and still not allowed to earn her degree, even though that she was one class away from graduating, or I think one assignment away from graduating. And then Joseph Shari, who was an international student at the University of South Florida, was suspended despite the fact that university administrators knew that he was an international student and being suspended would put his student visa at risk. But USF still decided to suspend him anyways, and that resulted in his student visa being revoked, and that resulted in him being deported.
So this is kind of a combination between your issues about immigration and ICE and also free speech and protests on campus. I also noticed that SDS is involved, and you may or may not know about this one, but there's another event that's happening this Saturday that SDS is part of. It's at noon at the Cypress Point Park in Tampa, and it's called Bring Them Back, Protests ICE Kidnappings. Is that something that you can tell people about what's happening there?
So we're not the main organizers for that. We're organizing with a group of other community groups, but it's along the same lines of our demands for ICE to stop abducting people off the streets and deporting them.
And I think that is the information that I have about where that is and so forth is that it's at Cypress Point Park in Tampa, happening Saturday at noon. Let me read this information about another school, another university, and maybe have you relate what's happening here at Harvard to what's going on at USF, and maybe that might be contributing to why the university is kind of not really paying attention to the student demands here. So, for example, the AP is reporting that the federal government says it's freezing more than $2.2 billion in grants and contracts to Harvard University. The institution said yesterday that it will not comply with a list of demands from the Trump administration as part of its campaign against anti-Semitism. The list at Harvard was updated last week, and it includes government and leadership reforms, as well as requirement to institute what it calls a merit-based admissions and hiring policy. The Trump demands also include an audit of the student body and faculty on their views about diversity, as well as a ban on face masks that appears to target pro-Palestinian protesters. So you have the Trump administration essentially going to a university and saying, institute all of these reforms that we think are necessary at your school, or else we're going to freeze $2.2 billion in grants and contracts to Harvard. Harvard seems to be pushing back a little bit here, but how would you compare what's happening at Harvard versus what's happening at USF?
I would say that USF definitely complies a lot more with, these like attacks on DEI, these demands of the Trump administration. USF doesn't resist against any of these, as I previously mentioned, like getting rid of the DEI office completely. But I think it just goes to show that like the Trump administration, feels extremely threatened by the student movement. And, that's why he's threatening all these schools with their federal funding freezes, and why he's targeting such like prevalent leaders of the pro-Palestine movements that occurred spring of 2024.
Our guest is Vicky Tong, a member of Tampa Bay Students for a Democratic Society, and you're listening to Tuesday Cafe. She's talking about the National Day of Action for Higher Education, and we are going to take a phone call in a second. Let me see if I can get Scott on the air. In just a second, we're going to put Scott on the air, but in the meantime, we can ask you about what's the mood among fellow students about the idea that ICE, the government group ICE, might be able to be cooperating with the police on the university campus?
Honestly, the majority of students, disagree with USFPD collaborating with ICE, and, with a significant portion of USF campus being international students, it directly goes against, the USF student body, quite frankly, because international students make up such a significant portion.
I want to remind people that we're listening to Tuesday Cafe, and our guest is Vicki Tong, a member of Tampa Bay Students for a Democratic Society. Their National Day of Action for Higher Education is this Friday afternoon. There's a demonstration at 4:30 in the afternoon. It's at the corner of 50th and Fowler. And the rally is part of the National Day of Action for Higher Education to defend DEI, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion, to demand free speech for Palestine, and to demand a stop to Trump's attacks on higher education. And we've talked about those things here. And specifically, the USF group here is also responding to the USF police recently signing a contract to collaborate with Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, or ICE. I think you've talked to the administration about some of these issues. When you talk to them, what's their response?
So last year, shortly before encampments, Tampa Bay SDS did deliver a petition that had numerous student groups signed on to it, demanding that USF protect diversity, equity, and inclusion, protect women and gender studies, and protecting Africana studies. And this letter was directly delivered to Danielle McDonald, the Dean of Students. And she did receive the petition, but never followed up with any of the students, and never, had a conversation with the students regarding these demands.
Well, I want to thank you very much for coming on WMNF's Tuesday Cafe today, Vicki.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
I really appreciate you coming on. Vicki Tong is a member of Tampa Bay Students for a Democratic Society, and Friday is their National Day of Action for Higher Education. They're going to be demonstrating at 4:30. It's at the corner of 50th and Fowler in Tampa, near the entrance to the University of South Florida. I also want to thank our earlier guests, Desiree Lynn and Corey Weckerly. And if you missed any of this show, you can watch it again starting in about an hour or so on WMNF.org. This has been WMNF's Tuesday Cafe. I'm Sean Canan. In this time slot tomorrow is Midpoint. And on Midpoint tomorrow at 10, we're going to hear about, here's the topic, Tallahassee versus the trees. So if you like trees, I hope that you tune in tomorrow and find out what they're talking about, where it's Tallahassee versus the trees. Coming up next, we're going to learn about capitalism in the age of digital technology. It's a lecture from late Robert McChesney. Coming up at noon is Wide Awake America with Nadine Smith. And Nadine is going to talk today with an eyewitness and survivor to the 1970 shootings on the campus of Kent State University, as the 55th anniversary of that tragedy is right around the corner. You've been listening to Tuesday Cafe. We've been coming to you live on April 15th, 2025 from the studios of WMNF, Tampa, St. Petersburg, Sarasota, Bradenton, Lakeland, Clearwater, Newport Richey. Thanks so much for listening to community radio and for supporting independent news and media. This is WMNF, Tampa.
WMNF's Tropical Heatwave brings an explosion of sound to Ybor City on May 10th. Multiple stages, endless genres, one unforgettable night. Tickets at tropicalheatwave.org.